Hey guys, Chomsky here. It's been a while. Just wanted to talk about Pheidi and essentially uh, talk about gearing Pheidi out. And I just want to make sure I know Pheidi's pronouns. Um, it's a him, he, him. So I want to talk about Pheidi, and you know, I know that he was kind of targeted recently in some of the summons this past weekend. If you had voids, you could have got him. And yeah, man, he's really solid. Artistically well done. And I have three different builds on him. And really, he's just a fun champ. Um, I'm not really using him in too many places. I've been messing around with him in Hydra. I want to take him in Chimera, 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 and just mess around with them. But honestly, just been lazy, and I haven't really done it. So rather than doing that, let's do a video instead. Yep. Chomsky metrics right here. So, what makes Pheidi great? Let's go to his skills. He's attacking one enemy twice. Each hit heals all allies by 5% of his max HP. Each hit also has a 75% chance to fill the turn meter of the ally with the lowest turn meter by 10%. So he's breaking healing and he's bringing turn meter. Not bad. You're going to book him up. It's going to be 100% for that chance to fill the turn meter, man. That's pretty gnarly. We have Raka that does turn meter every time they take a turn. Um, this dude, you really want to crank out as fast as you can, and it's going to be beneficial for him to have as much HP as possible because his damage is based on HP and it also determines the healing. So, really crank up the jams, right? Second one, he's removing all buffs from all enemies. It's an AoE. Then he's placing a block buff and a decreased speed, and then filling turn meter of all allies by 15%. So a ridiculous skill, right? We're talking about a strip as well as a block buff and decreased speed, and then increasing our turn meters by 15%. Dude, it's pretty sweet. And then here's like the topping here is that he's placing an increased resistance and a perfect veil on all of us. And then he's also decreasing the cooldown of ally skills by 3. It sucks that this can't be decreased, but I get it. That'd have been absolutely ridiculous. Increased resistance is pretty big, especially for people like me who don't really build resistance on champs. You know, Perfect Veil's really gnarly for Chimera because there's those trials that need it. If you all haven't, Nub Raids, excuse me, had busted out a video about the importance of Chimera, and especially as it comes to Basalt. So if you want to get mythical relics or uh, max ranked relics, it's kind of important to get those going. Those trials do rotate, so it's not always going to be at the same one. But I say this just because we have two more buffs here that could help us out in Chimera, as well as getting us closer towards those basalt trials, which is just essential. Um, this dude does have a passive, and then essentially it's just more if there's any CC, his turn meter is 30% more effective. Whenever a sheep debuff is removed or expires, heals that ally by a quarter of their max HP, as well as placing a increased speed. Like that's it doesn't really. I'm not bringing this guy to PvP land, so I'm not really too concerned about this. But it is nice to have this. So pretty sweet. I have him in temporal chains. Um, this was when I was messing around with him in PvP. I just held on to it. Um, honestly, it's okay. PvP, it makes sense to instantly decrease if you have a 6-star blessing. Mine's only in 5, but I don't necessarily see him in PvP. But things could change. Right now, again, I've just been messing around with him in Hydra, uh, primarily with Teox, just for the more lizard man approach. Um, I do have the journal, just because it makes a boatload of sense to get even more healing and more turn meter. Like, yeah, yes, please. And then this is how I have his masteries. Uh, I don't see him as that offensive. It's nice to get damage out of him, but it's not something I'm really pumping for. Here, I have him more as a debuffer than anything else, which may not be the ideal situation. I think having him as a healer makes the most sense, but I really wanted to crank out um, the block buffs and decrease speed. But I think this is going to change. Um, really, having those debuffs makes a lot of sense, but it doesn't. I don't really need them. Extending a debuff, okay, cool. Um, Getting more turn meter was really what I was going for here, because I know I wanted two of them here, and I guess I could, you know, toss this in. I don't know, but I more or less went with oppressor just because I want more turn meter for him to gain more A1 capabilities. I could go toward deterrence and retribution, but I thought I had more value here with potentially extending buffs and debuffs. You could do some more healing here. It's not a bad idea. If you want to really increase your buffs, there's an option. But I was going down debuffs primarily because in Pinpoint, which is my main set I have him on, I I have him pretty. He's cooking at 338 speed with 72,000 health. Attack, again, you don't need attack whatsoever. I would like to crank out more defense with them, and then 385 accuracy is like pretty low. If you are going to be using them in PvP, you definitely want to get 550 along those lines. And resistance, it's basically a coin flip. So I'm not mad about this. I have 9-piece pinpoint, really just the intercept, just more resistance, but it's not going to be a long-term effect. This is very short-term. So in Hydra, pinpoint may not be the best idea. So let's take a look at the preset managers. I have pinpoint, I have them in feral, and then protection. Putting them in feral, what I would get more speed, I'd gain a little bit more defense, just a tick, more HP, like crit rate and crit damage, meh, don't care. You definitely want to get a little bit more accuracy, especially if you have feral. Um, don't know why I got to go twice here, but 515 and 345, that's okay. Um, when I say okay, I mean hey, that's really good. um, just because like that's a boatload of speed, and I could definitely crank this up just a little bit more. Uh, my my third one, the rationale for feral, by the way, is just I'm putting out those two debuffs out there. You know that's really it, and he's kind of in the middle there. He puts out two debuffs as well as two buffs. So putting protection or feral, it really depends about what equipment you have that that's better. You know, for me, I pinpoint's okay, even though that's only 5-star. Um, Having feral kind of makes sense, but I'm already using it on some pretty solid champs. So I don't know if I really want to do that. Having it having protection, kind of in the same boat. I use Senna a lot. Theodosia's nice, and then yeah, I only have a 5-star glove, but it's on Galathar, and this is I think my third Galathar that I'm using them on. So I'm not too concerned about that. But these two taking equipment away, mm, that kind of hurts. But I say that just because with I don't have good protection accessories. So I really need to start paying attention to Hydra. Need to start. I really need to start doing the best I can with it because these are not good. I mean, a double attack on an HP ring, that's not going to cut it with no HP percentage. This one is poor. A defense amulet with a double attack, not ideal. Ideal. And then here, a defense uh, banner with speed is fantastic, and I could crank that up just a little bit. But I say this just because I'm leaning very heavily on sets on Pheidi because let's see if I could I I misclicked there. Give me 1 second. So getting a 9 piece here to get my allies to do a little bit more damage, that's ideal. And I'm gaining a lot of speed and I'm protecting them. And granted, those are buffs that they're okay. It's an increased resistance for us, um, and a perfect veil. Like those are pretty hard to come by. Not everyone has an increased resistance buff, but it helps us out because then we could shave off resistance from other champs. So it's kind of like, you know, I lean heavily towards increased resistance, comparing it to block buffs and decreased speed because there's a whole lot of others that do that place block buffs, like Ugo, for instance. Decreased speed, as an AoE, it's pretty common. So for us to have an increased resistance potential, I wouldn't mind having a protection on that. So this way it doesn't get stripped or anything like that or stolen. So yeah, it's kind of okay. If you've noticed, all three of those, I don't really have that much HP. With my Feral, I'm at 74,000. With Protection, I'm at 75,000. I would love to crank this up to, let's say, a hundo, but like I'm also wanting to lean heavily into speed. I want to be able to go first. I want to set up my dudes for the biggest chance for them to survive as well. So I want them to go behind Pheidi where Pheidi could heal them, as well as a chance for them to do their skills. Maybe their A3s and A2s, and then I reset them, and then we keep that going. So I definitely want to lean heavily on speed, depending on what I want to do here. Do I want to stall a little bit? I'll have pinpoint. If I want to be offensive, I definitely want to have feral. Um, Again, just putting out there uh, a strip as well as a block buff and decrease speed. It, Even though it is common, it's still pretty awesome to have that. And then also the filling up turn meters, like that's huge. So I'm kind of trying to forget about damage for Pheidi, but I also it's kind of easy to come across because he's HP based. So it just makes sense. You want to have him be have a little bit more defense. You want him to be tanky, but you also want him to go fast. This way he can heal up everybody. So and then additionally the relic. I think the journal makes the most sense. Um, Again, just having that increase, that boost on turn meter, it may not seem like much, but it's still solid. It's still a boost, and turn meter boosting is, in my opinion, the number one thing that you can do in this game. If you're not going first, you're going last, right? It's that Ricky Bobby quote: "If you're not first, you're last." And really, I just want to have my dudes go as quick as they can. Um, if there's damage out of that, great, cool. But I'm really just leaning into journal, and eventually I'm gonna have to make my relics go max. I still don't have an 18 relic. I have a couple 12s, but no 18s. So I need to get on it. Um, I don't care too much about PvP, and with Pheidi, I guess you could put Pheidi in there, but you know, for PvE, I think Pheidi's really really good. So I'll definitely mess around with Pheidi and Chimera, and I'm thinking if I just tether Pheidi and Teox together, I think that's a 1-2 that could be really really solid, and it's just something for me to mess around with. So yeah, if you do have Pheidi, congratulations. I think he's going to be a huge piece to anybody's account, and I just need to lean into him. So expect a part two after after some time. I want to say about a month or two, and then I'll redo this and see where it goes. But yeah, that's what I got. Look forward to any feedback. Otherwise, find me on Twitch, No One My Chomsky on Twitch, and let's hang out. All right, bye.